Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's stream. Um, we're in the same place we were last Sunday. Um, last week didn't work out well. Um, there was, so Monday was a holiday. Um, wound up not streaming that day. It was a holiday in the US. And then on Thursday, um, so for Christmas, I found like a private chef in our area, um, and I contacted her, and she's doing like private cooking classes for my wife and I. So it's kind of a date night thing that we're doing. And last Thursday, we went over to her house and we learned to make orange chicken and fried rice, which was a lot of fun. Um, so if you guys have a significant other, even if you don't enjoy cooking, cooking classes are a lot of fun. Um, um, I tend to so cooking is very scientific and there's a lot of science to it. That's the fun thing about the chef that we've been going to. Um, is she's a big fan of like Alton Brown. So if you've ever watched him live or on Food Network, he's a food scientist. Um, and so she talks a lot about the same stuff that like Alton Brown will talk about. So a little while ago we were making fettuccine alfredo, and we were making our pasta dough and stuff like that. And she's talking about gluten, um, and how gluten works with the egg noodles. And you want a flour that has high gluten so that it's stretchy, um, and just talking about what the gluten does and how it makes the dough stretchy and things like that. Um, and then it's like during the orange chicken, we were discussing the differences between deep frying, um, and then pan frying, and then searing and things like that. And she also gave some interesting insights into like sautéing, um, because I had some bad sautéing habits that I didn't realize. Um, so we were sautéing onions, peas, and carrots for the fried rice. And my instinct is to stir the pan. Um, and we learned that you need enough fat. And in this case, we were using butter as the fat, but you need enough fat to keep the vegetables from sticking to the bottom of the pan. Um, but you don't want to move the vegetables. And her analogy that I really liked was, if you go outside barefoot on a really hot day and you walk on the road, um, it doesn't typically burn your feet as quickly as if you go outside on a very hot day and you just stand in one place on a hot road, right? And she's like, when you're moving things around, right, you feel like you need to be doing something, but moving things around is like walking on the road on a hot day, right? You're going to cook a lot less slower than if you just let it sit and um, sweat out all the water and stuff like that. We also learned sautéing vegetables, throwing a little bit of salt in the osmosis process is going to pull the water out of the vegetables faster. Um, and it also helps to just add layers to your flavors. So I've really been enjoying the class, and it's a fun thing to do. Um, with with your significant other. So anyway, that's why we missed Thursday. I'm noticing that I'm not getting the repo over on the YouTube stuff. Do I have WSL on your computer? I do have WSL, Pollock. I'm not using WSL. I'm using PowerShell, as you can see. I do have WSL. I've been working on getting WSL working really well, because there's another shell that I love. that I want to use. And if you guys have ever used Warp, um, then you'll know why I want to use this shell. This is the one thing that when I moved to my Windows computer um, from the Mac computer I use at work, this is the one thing that I miss. I don't know what's going on. Oh, I know what's going on. My theme is getting in the way here. Let's see if I can turn this off for a second. There we go. I was like, that doesn't look right. So, they're recreating the warp shell here, but there's some really cool things that you can do with the warp shell that they're showing you here. So you can add commands to these warp drive things, and it will replay them, and you can add variables to them as you're seeing there. So lots of really, really cool things that you can do with warp. I'm on the wait list for Windows. Would you try something for me with IntelliJ IDEA with remote development connected to WSL? Angular schematics and WebStorm are not working. I would need to remote development connected to WSL. I haven't done that before. Anyway, this is why I'm working on getting WSL working, because Warp works on Windows in WSL, but I just need to take the time to do it. I've been really, really busy, and so my downtime has been spent um, doing things that aren't going to burn me out. Is really what it comes down to. But let's take a look. PowerShell. Yes, I do use PowerShell scripting, and it tends to be more powerful than just the regular command shell on Windows. That's why I use PowerShell. But let's see. Let's go into WebStorm. And so one of the things that will probably be working against me. So Pollock. I've got NX installed, and so if I go here, and I'm not using WSL, how would I do it? Yeah, well, and that's recommend required type checking to extend form. Oh yeah, this is an upgrade issue, so we'll need to clean up some of our upgrade stuff. I need to get WSL working. So I have WSL2 on my Windows machine. I have, I think, the Ubuntu. I think I've got their Ubuntu container, but there's something going on with my WSL. It doesn't want to launch, and so I don't know if I can test it. I'll get WSL working, and by next Sunday, and we'll test it next Sunday. Because I would like to see that. One thing I would do, and this is one of the things that I really like about JetBrains. So, just so you guys know, JetBrains does give me a free license to their product. I've been a part of their interview panel for a long time, so I get it that way. I also get it through the Angular GDE pro. There's a bunch of different ways that JetBrains is giving me free licenses. I'm in no way advertising for them. I'm not sponsored by them outside of the fact that they're giving me a free license. I just want to be clear before I I talk nicely about them. The reason I'm part of their interview panel is because I've been paying for JetBrains licenses for over 20 years now. Um, so I've been a customer of JetBrains. I started using ReSharper, and then I just found that I really like their tools, and so I just kept growing. Right, I've never been a big Java developer, and that's one of the things that's I did Java way back when I worked for a company called KSL Cars. They were a company that partnered with like local media stations. So in Utah, KSL is like a large media company. We also did Como 4 cars up in like the Seattle area. So Como is a big media station in that area. So back when we did that, I worked in like struts and things like that. I when Windows developed .NET, they stole all the good developers from Java, and so Java kind of it got stuck for a while. Um, and so I always felt like Java was a less good version of .NET, and I know that is going to trigger some people, especially people who work in Java. And modern Java has definitely caught up and has some amazing things. I didn't like Java because there were things I wanted to do that only .NET had, and it was frustrating. So Java was very frustrating for me, and I have trouble getting over that. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to switch to IntelliJ Ultimate as I have to do some Java development too. But Angular schematics not working with the UI is quite a deal breaker. And so, like, the thing that launched me into all of that um, was reach out to Jan on Twitter, or reach out to JetBrains on Twitter, or even just contact them through the website. Um, the reason I wanted to let you guys know that I get stuff for free from JetBrains is because I'm going to say something incredibly nice about them, but this has been the way they've been forever. Right? First of all, Jan is an incredible person. He's incredibly responsive. If you reach out to him, he's likely to get onto your computer and help you troubleshoot. Is the crazy thing. He does WebStorm though, not IntelliJ. So if you reach out to their support, they are so responsive. They will get back to you so quickly. And the main reason I would say reach out to Jan is that WebStorm and JetBrains they're driven by the same engine, right? The same IntelliJ engine. But he's likely to be able to put you in touch with somebody who knows how the Angular engine works. Because I do have the ultimate license and WebStorm. So my suggestion is to reach out to them, right? Because it will probably be before next Sunday before I have something that we can test together. But by next Sunday, I'll have WSL working. I'll have a project that doesn't have NX in it, so that I can look at the Angular schematics. And from there, we'll test it out and see if we can figure out something on stream. But I'm not in a position where I can do that, and I think it's going to take me a couple of hours to get my WSL working, just from the initial Googling and stuff that I've done. So we will take a look at it. My suggestion is to honestly reach out to JetBrains. They will probably fix your problem before I get to it, and I would love to hear what the solution is. Let's get in and let's get some stuff fixed. And then we need to do some upgrading. The reason that I'm going through this process is we're going to be tearing out the guts of our application. If we tear out the guts of our application, we better make sure we have good testing in place, right? We're going to rip out the component store and we're going to replace it with Signal Store. Hey, Nixia, it's been a good while, man. Welcome back to the stream. Good to see you. Um, so if we're going to rip out the guts of our application, we better make sure our tests work, right? We better make sure our linters work. We better make sure our component tests work. We better, we use Storybook here. We better make sure Storybook works, right? Um, so that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to want to see, one thing I wanted to do is which PNPX. Term which is not recognized. Really? Is it where on Windows? I always forget. And this is kind of okay. So Windows PowerShell, which command? Um, let's turn you back on. Sorry about that. Um, let's get command. So it says we can do that. Just pull the pipe off of it. So um, this is one of the weird things about PowerShell that reminds me a lot. So I worked in this language called Cache for a while. InterSystems Cache is what it's called. InterSystems Cache was built on top of mumps, and mumps just allowed you to randomly shorten things. This is one of the weird things about PowerShell. So like get command shortens down to GCM. Um, I don't know. Sometimes that bugs me. So I always just do command. And here we're going to do PNPX. We're going to grab the path off of it. So there is PNPX. If I do PNPM, interesting. So let's do start notepad, and actually I think we have to pipe this. So we do this, and then we pipe it to start notepad. That didn't work. Turn off suggestions for an hour. That'll be fine. Oh, what I can do is do this, do start notepad, paste that. I want to look at the command. There, I would like to be able to use pnpx. So it looks like it's got it set up, but whenever I use pnpx, pnpx and like, so if I were to do nx lint, right, and we can do a run many tlint, it's saying it can't find this pnpx.js. I need to figure out what's going on there. I've got a couple of things, and one of the things I could do is a lot of the issues that I run into would be fixed with WSL. So Pollock, that's a good reason for me to get on WSL2. I want to use Warp, and I've got issues that I want to fix. Okay. So we are getting the issue that we were seeing there. Failed to load plugin. NGRX recommended requiring type checking. Let's find out where we're using that requiring type checking stuff. Go to our web store. And I know our tests aren't going to work because we need to upgrade a whole bunch of libraries. But let's find requiring type checking right here. This plugin doesn't work. It no longer exists. I know that. We can take that out. Actually, we don't want to take that out because I don't think, yeah, we don't. So this is no longer the case. What we can do is we can instead go to ngrx.io. And the reason that I want to work through this with you guys and show you how to fix it is because you guys may run into this too if you upgrade. So in the past, there used to be all these different ESLint rules. So we can use plugins NGRX. So but NGRX is just for the NGRX project. If we look at the rules, they've got component store, they've got effects, operators, and signals. I want operators and signals to be in place. The rest of them I don't really care about. I can just do operators and signals. So I think what we can do is instead of this, here we can do operators. You know what, let's just do all because we do have component store in place too. They'll disappear, and the rules that we won't hit the rules that we won't hit. That sounds stupid, but PNPM DLX. I'm trying to move away from PNPM exec. PNPM DLX does the same thing as PNPX. I believe it's the same as PNPM exec if it's installed locally. So that fixed up that issue. So our linter should work again. So we can go ahead and say that we fixed linter issues after upgrade. And when you're doing this, I recommend like I think about the things in kind of the terms of video games sometimes, right? And this is like making your making your saves before you make a big decision in like something like a Baldur's Gate or something, right? I don't typically do what people refer to as save scumming, but there have been times that I do it, right? Like my time is limited, and so if something I do goes catastrophically wrong, I will go back to the save. But I also like to run a few mods, and sometimes mods are known to crash things, right? So, like in my free time right now, I love XCOM 2. It's probably one of my absolute favorite games. I'm running a modded version of XCOM 2, and it's highly modded. Actually, I could show you guys. Let's go here. Go here. So if you run XCOM 2 and you want to mod it, never use the 2K mod launcher. It's crap. There's a better mod launcher, the alternative mod launcher. You guys can see, like I'm running a highly modded version, 333 mods. And there's everything from, the DOA are adding like outfits for people, Tekken, right? Just fixes. But one of the big mods that I added is this amalgamation mod. Amalgamation, what it does is it takes the base game and it kind of randomizes the classes. So with amalgamation, you get a primary class, a secondary class, and a tertiary class. They can be combined in any order. Amalgamation then takes 3 of those classes and generates, a potential new class, but it generates 3 of those. So when your person goes from a rookie, instead of getting the typical ranger, sharpshooter, the heavy, the demolitions expert, the hacker, why can't I think of the hacker name? One with the gremlin, specialist, and then the I want to call them psyops, but basically instead of getting one of those 5 classes, and really you have to unlock the 5th, right, by doing research. What amalgamation does is it gives you a much more randomized. So you could wind up with somebody who has a sword and maybe a rocket launcher, right, or a grenade launcher. You could wind up with somebody who has an assault rifle, who carries a pistol sidearm, and who has a gremlin, right? So you get these interesting combinations. And if you've played XCOM 2 as much as I have, you find that there's some optimal ways to go through it. So like my first specialist is always my healing specialist. So they always go down the same tree, right? My first ranger is always my Bladestorm ranger, because Bladestorm is overpowered, and if any enemy gets close to you, you just automatically attack them, right? Things like that, right? So I'm always going down the same path. So I've decided to run amalgamation. Amalgamation is what really blew up my mods. And anyway, the reason that I got into this is that there with modded games, you want to make sure that you're saving regularly because it could crash at any time, right? That's the same way I look at like making small commits, right? When you get to a spot where you're stable, make a commit, and that's kind of like your save point, right? You can throw away everything and go back to that commit and know that you're stable. Um, so, that's my long-winded way of saying, commit often. It's going to help you out. And if you guys play XCOM 2, if you've never played it before, play the vanilla game. Plenty of randomness, plenty of craziness going on. Once you do that, amalgamation is amazing. It really has changed this playthrough. And I've only made it through like 3 or 4 missions, but already I'm having to make tough decisions because like one of my characters has no weapons. Well, not weapons, has no ranged weapons. Um, she's got a sword and a knife, and that's it. And so she's an interesting character because she's a very good scout to be front line, and she moves incredibly fast. But she can also get out of position very easily, and she's led to a couple of situations where I've accidentally triggered something where I'm super careful because I understand how the 5 classes interact with each other, right? And the Overwatch crawl that you'll do in a lot of XCOM games, I'm very used to that. I'm finding that I don't follow that pattern as much with the amalgamation changes. It's been a lot of fun. Anyway, our linter works. The next one I don't expect to work is the tests. I expect the tests to break. And we used Angular testing library. We used Spectator. We used Storybook, and we used Cypress in this project. Oh wow, I didn't. Oh no, fast analyzers and pipes should definitely work. Those were both written. They're basically services, and maybe everything will work because they're all services. I'm actually really surprised this works. Component tests. Oh, that one even worked. Okay, that's awesome. I did not expect that to happen. That's good. We're in a good place. What I am sure will not run is Storybook. I better not say that. I better not say that I am sure. Cannot find configuration for task Angular Sudoku Storybook. Do we not have Storybook? I thought we had. Oh, yeah. It's Storybook. I think it is components. I think we've only got Storybook on the components part. We didn't put it on the actual Sudoku game itself. We only did it on the components, if I remember correctly. And it looks like that's the case because, yeah. We're going to have to figure that one out, the Webpack Builder. That's fun. So we've got an issue there. The other thing that we can do is component test. Actually, I'm curious if I do an exec here, nx Storybook. Components. Does it work there? It might be the DLX stuff. Because it looks like it's trying to find. No, it is looking in node modules. It can't find the Webpack 5. Actually, that works. It did start up on localhost 4400 in my other browser. So let's bring that up here on localhost 4400. So it looks like even this works. Sorry about the bright here. This is one other thing that I want to do is make sure that we get into. So like if I change the value here to like a 6, we should see a change up there. Doesn't care about the column in the region. But if we think these are all working, right? Yeah. As error, focused row, focused. Those all look good. There's our grid, so we can actually check out our grid, like, and make sure that it all works. And then pencil marks, we can make sure that they all work too, right? So Storybook works too. I keep saying I don't expect this stuff to work, and then it proves me wrong. So that is one of the reasons why I'm not using DLX. For whatever reason, on Windows it doesn't work, and that's probably a good reason why I should get WSL working, like Pollock was asking for early on. So the last thing to do is exec nx run many. And we want to just see if our component tests work too. If those all work, then we're in a good place. We definitely want to upgrade. And I'm not going to fix the component tests now if they don't work. I'm going to wait until we've got everything upgraded because I don't want to fix something now, upgrade, and then have it break again and have to fix it later, right? The other thing I want to do, and we can do that while we wait for the component tests to run, is ESLint upgrade to 9. So yeah, everything we're using now supports it now supports ESLint 9, and they're up to version like 9.9 of ESLint. Version 8 works just fine, and the reason I haven't upgraded yet is because ESLint, Angular ESLint says that they will create some migration schematics for us, and NX probably will too once ESLint comes out with their schematics that they're talking about. But so eslint.config.js is the new default. The previous format, eslint RC, is now deprecated and will not automatically be searched for. So yeah, the configuration modder or migration guide. Oh, well, it looks like it's already there. So it looks like we should be able to run this. So it looks like there's an automated path forward. And so I do want to take a look at potentially doing this. Um, it could break NX and stuff like that. But I'm curious, like if somebody were wanting to do this on their own, right? What would it take to get to ESLint 9 from an ESLint 8 project, right? A project, and this project's been ESLint 8 for a long time. Um, so part of this is also a bit selfish because I don't know the flat configuration yet. I understand, ESLint RC. I don't know the flat configuration. So I definitely want to take a look at that too. But that will be something that we get into also is migrating our ESLint files here to ESLint 9. Well, actually, there's one last thing I want to check before I do that. Let's go here and let's see NX ESLint 9. So on August 10th, so that was about a month ago. NX dependency checks rule. So it does look like they have some support for it. So it looks like they support it. There may be some pain involved, and that's why you guys should watch like a streamer do do this kind of stuff, right? Because we can go through the pain, and you guys can laugh at us, and then learn from the mistakes that we make, right? With ESLint 9 release, many community code are adding support. So, oh, this is a good. This is a good one to know. So, I don't see Angular in here. TypeScript ESLint is supported. Oh, there's Angular right there. So Angular is supported. Perfect. So we'll be seeing what kind of a mess I can make with ESLint also. But let's get everything upgraded, and then you can move forward from there. This is where this is why I suggest that you commit, because now we're going to start getting into major changes, right? One thing I did want to do is I'm just curious, pnpm exec nx striker. Does that work? I'm really curious if we can get striker to run too. And actually, it's not nx, it's just striker. Because if I can get striker to run, I would like to explore a little bit about why we originally added striker here. So So it looks like we can say mutate, and then we can say /source, and try a dry run here. Dry run. Is that the dry run flag? Oh, it's dry run only. Let's see what it comes up with if we do like a dry run only. Command. Oh, okay. Run. So I may not need the -- mutate. I might just need the run and dry run only. But it would be nice. Yeah, there we go. So found 19 files to mutate. So yeah, I think Striker runs when you don't have. This is one of the things that I really miss about Warp is that you can just jump to the top. File not found. tsconfig JSON. Oh. Okay, I think we can solve this with some custom NX work. So there might be some custom NX work to make Striker work with NX. Maybe it's already been done. I'd be surprised if it hasn't. So if we go Striker NX plugin. Oh, look at that. Somebody's already done it. Let's turn you back on. Striker plugin NX. Published 2 years ago, though. I don't know. We'll have to take a look at this. It looks like it's been a while since that one's been maintained. But the reason this isn't working is that it can't find the tsconfig spec file. And if we look, there's typically, there's a strike conf.json, which we can probably open up here. So generated using Striker init. So it is picking up a tsconfig file. So we could probably do some stuff in Striker itself to fix it up. Anyway, let's get back to what we were doing. I'm getting distracted by a whole bunch of different things today. Because I'm just excited about the direction we can take this. So Faker is going to version 9. So that's going to be a big change. But Faker is used with ngneat spectator. So we'll upgrade these two together. So I'm curious if faker-js/faker. I'm curious if NX will migrate that. It might. It might not. If it doesn't, we can just do it through PNPM itself. ngneat spectator will definitely migrate. Oh wow, we're way behind on our ESLint plugins too. So that did upgrade. We can check that. Here we can see that it found the upgrade and it's going to upgrade it to 9, which is great. So then the last thing we want to do is just ngneat spectator. And it has been a while since I've worked in spectator, so I'm not even sure what the modern spectator stuff is like. And Angular testing library is another one. It's been a while since I've used these libraries. I love these libraries. Just at work, we don't use them at all. At work, I'm learning Playwright for our E2E tests. We use Cypress for our component tests. So that all worked. There we go there. So now we've upgraded Spectator, and we upgraded Faker. If you guys don't know what Faker or Spectator are, we can go take a look at those while the upgrade's in progress. So, so if we go for Faker JS/Faker, there's that one. And if we go for ngneat spectator, there's that one. So Faker.js, Faker.js is pretty cool. It basically allows you to generate just fake data, right? Why would you want to generate fake data? Well, there are arguments on both sides, right? One side will tell you, you shouldn't use fake data in your tests because you want your tests to be predictable. The other side will tell you that you should use fake data in your tests because you may want to catch those edge cases where tests break down. There's another type of testing called property testing that I think we've used before. And property testing looks for those edge cases where things break down. So you tell it, this is a text input, and it starts throwing numbers and booleans, and then really large strings and really small strings and undefined, right? And it just tries to find the places where your tests break down, right? It treats your tests like a black box and just throws data at them. If it finds an error, then the next thing it does is it tries to find the minimal reproducible error, right? I'm on the side of, one, I love property testing, but two, random data. If your tests can randomly fail, one of the things to do is make sure that you're giving the key for your tests with Faker, and then your tests become reproducible because you can seed Faker. So as long as you know the Faker seed, then you can run the same test and get the same failures. And Faker has all those tools in place, and it generates great amounts of fake data. That's why I like Faker. ngneat spectator is a tool that I started using a long time ago. because it was a faster version of it's a wrapper around the testing module for Angular, but it takes out a lot of the boilerplate, right? So Spectator, these are your tests. You don't have the huge boilerplate modules that you typically have, right? And it has all sorts of cool stuff in it. You could throw as much stuff in there, but it's got some really cool tools where, like, you can just throw mocks in there. And so instead of having to create mocks, what you could do is you could throw mocks and then throw your services in the mocks, and then Spectator creates those mocks for you, right? If you need to override components with mocks, you just throw in component mocks, right? If you need to override view providers, and so now you don't have to do the add and remove stuff, right? Spectator does all of that for you behind the scenes. It's a really, really nice way to work with the default testing modules. Testing library does something very, very similar, right? So with this project, we explored both, and Spectator is probably my favorite, mainly because I haven't worked with testing libraries much. Yeah. Who is that? So Michael Small. I found myself manually doing what Spectator did on accident without knowing it existed. Yeah, and so part of the reason why I jumped to Spectator a while ago was that the Angular tests were actually slower. And Spectator, so that's not true because it wraps the testing module, right? So it's not like, or it wraps the test bed, not testing module. I keep saying testing modules. It wraps the test bed. Spectator was wrapping the test bed, but it was setting some properties on the test bed that sped up the test bed, and it was doing some other things, right, that allowed test bed to go faster. After a while, Angular started doing the same thing. So I think it's after version 12 or maybe 13 of Angular, Spectator isn't faster anymore. If you're before version 12 or 13, right? Angular 8 is a very popular version that people are still running. Angular 11 is a very popular version that people are still running. If you're using that and you're not using Spectator, your unit tests are probably 3 to 4 times slower than they could be. That's a big win. That's why I started using Spectator. But yeah, doing those overrides and the auto mocks is amazing. It uses ng mocks to do the mocks, and I add ng mocks to every project. We've got ng mocks at Bill. We've got ng mocks is a powerful library, great library. Anyway, let's see if I broke anything. And don't do what I'm about to do, right? What I'm about to do is you shouldn't do this. Well, and I'm going to follow my own advice here. Typically, I will go in and commit to force myself to fix things. I'm concerned that this may be too broken, and I don't want to get too stuck in fixing tests. So let's go here, and we'll just npm exec nx run many, and we're just going to run tests here because we upgraded spec. I should do the linter too because some of my linter rules might have broken. But this is a good sign. Maybe. We'll see if it's a good sign. But our pipes test passed. Our analyzers tests passed. I think the analyzers is where we're using Baker. So those all passed. I want to do the lint. And what I want to do is just figure out where I'm using Faker. That's interesting. That was full screen. Let's find out where we're using Faker. So we're doing fake cell values and fake cell positions. That's one place where we're doing it. And the random number helpers, this is still random number helpers. So we don't really need faker that much here, right? This could very easily be rewritten to generate, use math.random between 0 and 8 and add 1 to it for this. Marcus, good to see you, man. Welcome to the stream. Hopefully you had a good weekend. It's getting towards the end of your weekend, but thank you for joining. But this is the only reason we're using faker. And I think that there's even, we don't even need to do this because we could do like return faker dot number dot. Do they not have the dice roll anymore? Int hex, big int, binary, float, octal. They used to have where you could simulate rolling a dice, but that's not there anymore. So we're fine. Anyway, that all worked too. I'm so used to things breaking, it's a little bit crazy to me. So upgraded Baker and spectator. So those all worked. We can push that up. And so then the next thing to do is look at, what's the next thing to upgrade? We're just going to go through the list. I was trying to mix through and down, and it came out as through. But we're going to go through the list. So testing libraries next. We'll go ahead and fix up our testing, or we'll migrate our testing library. So pnpm exec and nx migrate at testing library / Angular. I should upgrade that. It is very good to see you, Marcus. I keep thinking about you because I keep threatening to do a .NET stream. I do want to get back to our modular stuff. I just really wanted to experiment with xState and having a project existing where we could add xState to it and make sure that it works and behaves the way that I expect it to with the signal store is a big deal. I also wanted to talk about, if you, for whatever reason, wanted to migrate from component store to signal store, you don't have to do that. That is one of the big things that I want to just be, I want to be clear about. At ngconf, NGRX said, component store is not going anywhere. Component store is awesome, which I totally agree. But for component store is for existing component store projects. New projects should use NGRX signals. Was kind of the direction that they gave at ngconf. And so I'm curious about what if you've got component store and you want to start using signal store? Well, you can mix and match, right? There's nothing to stop you from doing that. But what if you want to maintain consistency, right? You don't want component store, you don't want signal store mixed in with each other. You want, you're an NGRX signals purist, and you want to make sure that we do signals. How do we do that upgrade? So yeah, that's that's the first thing I want to jump into here once we get this figured out, and then a lot of the other stuff that we've talked about we can look at later after we do the xState stuff. But so pnpm exec nx run many. We want to run our tests, and we'll run our lint. This is the cool thing about NX is if you want to run tests and lint at the same time, you absolutely can, and it will run them in parallel. So you can see here that it grabbed most of them um, from the cache. So these tests didn't change. This test didn't change. My lints all didn't change. Really, there's only two things that it needed to run on. So the Sudoku test and the components test. Those are the only places where those NPM packages changed anything. And that's one of the big reasons why you should use something like NX, right? Because I could run my lint and my test. It's like, yeah, you don't even really need to run these. You only need to run these two. So we're good there. So we can go ahead and commit that upgrade also. Oh, there was a migrations. Oh. I didn't run my migrations. We should run that migration. I wasn't even paying attention. I was just so far ahead of myself. But we need to run this too. We ran the install, but we didn't run the migrations. I was confused why there were 3 files. Yeah, let's see. Michael says that you do a mix. Signal store was too early when, yeah, exactly. And the scope of most state was component based, but we pulled in Signal store recently and it's great and can be scoped. Yeah. Signal store is very scopable to anything. And the cool thing about Signal store is it's built on signal state, which means that if you don't want to generate a whole store, you can just generate state for a given component and not even have to worry about the whole store stuff, right? If you don't need all of it. Component store over signal store is that it does have built-in observable selector, and that's very true. If you want to get observables from signal store, then you have to use the to observable. I don't use observables from signal store that much. Man, like I use observables a lot in Angular still, but I don't use them as much as I used to. So almost everything stays signal unless it needs to be an observable. Ran ATL add DTL as dev dependency. As a dev dependency, no changes were made. So it looks like I didn't even need to run the migrations. It looks like the migrations were there to just help in the case that you didn't have it set up properly. Let's go ahead and stage these files and upgrade. It's at testing library / Angular. I wasn't sure about the at testing library / Angular. And testing library is worked on by some very, very smart people. The main reason I don't use testing library more is that I learned Spectator early, and they both solve very similar things. But testing library is focused more on. So testing library is test the way your users would use your components. So testing library I look at kind of like as a component testing library. And for component testing, I typically use Cypress. I do want to investigate Playwright component testing, but for right now, I use Cypress, and that's why I don't use testing library as much. Spectator still works really well with like services and things like that. That's the big reason why I don't use testing library, but testing library is very good. I really enjoyed it. Michael says, I use observables from Signal Store like 1 out of 10 things. Or in those cases are always for a switch map or so. Yeah, that is typically it. When what I'm trying to do is old school reactive and hasn't been upgraded to signals. That's when I typically use testing store. Oh, and I need to upgrade the testing library DOM. Angular or testing library slash DOM. So we can migrate that to 10.4, which I should have done with the upgrade there. And then the ESLint plugins and Node, and then we're to a point where we can start replacing component store with signal store. So that now is in place. There were no migrations created. Don't need to run the lint on this. We'll just run the tests and just make sure that nothing broke. So again, it's only those two tests, right? The remaining tests just came from the cache, which is nice. And one of the big wins for using NX, if you use NX Cloud, then you get the same stuff across all of your developers and across your CI/CD, which is awesome because if you pull something and make merges, and that person ran the test locally or the CI/CD ran the tests, then you don't have to run the tests if you didn't change the files. So big win. One thing that I did learn, and I do want to talk to the people at NX about this during NXConf, is that if you set the flag ingest to randomize the test order, then the caching doesn't work. So what is that flag? I think it's just random, right? Yeah, so now my tests are being run in random order, but notice that now none of the caching works. And throwing that random flag on the end of your just tests will run them in random order. But if I run this again, right, it's going to again run, oh, no, interesting. Maybe that was fixed. Maybe I am speaking, yeah, that's cool. Maybe that was fixed because I did say something about it on Twitter, and they're another one of those companies that's very responsive. So ignore me. You can use the random flag. Actually, before I say that, let's do this. Just random flag. It's randomized, not random. And the cool thing about randomize is that you can also throw a seed on it, which is cool. So let's go here and do randomize. So new flag, I think it doesn't know what to do with the new flag. So we'll try this again and see if we can cache them after the new flag. Because when I threw random on there, which was a flag that doesn't exist, it did the same thing. And I think it just has to realize, oh, there's a new, oh, yeah. Interesting. If we go verbose here, so what randomize does to jest is it tells it to run it in a different order. So it read that from the local cache using that seed and using that seed. So I think they they're keeping a seed so that you can run these tests the same way again. Um, so it looks like they've changed it so that randomize works, right? And we're getting, the cached console output. So this stuff is all coming from the cache. It's cached all of this. Um, or maybe. Yeah, so there's my seed. In 12 seconds, it ran everything. So with the randomize, it did. And then this is giving all the information about, where it's going and stuff like that. Um, so they did fix randomize. So you guys can completely ignore what I was about to say about NX because it was wrong. And they fixed it, which is awesome. There we go. We fixed that. Need to commit what I just did, right? Yep. And this is us upgrade testing library DOM. So we're good there. And I think we're getting close to being done with all the upgrades. The types node, we can just run these ESLint ones here. And then the prettier, I think we can just do these. If they break, they break. We're gonna fix them. So that one, that one, that one, and that one, and we're gonna skip ESLint because I'm not ready to do the migration. Go ahead and upgrade all of this. And so after this runs, we just need to run the linter and make sure our linters aren't broken, and then we're good. And then it's time to jump in and start, tearing out the component store. And this is the reason that we want our component tests and our unit tests working. There we go. We just upgraded that. So now I should be able to do pnpm exec nx run many. And we're going to lint this. So we want to make sure that we run all of our linters. That's why I'm doing a run many instead of affected. Yeah. So there we go. We've got some issues. We've got a lot of issues. So let's take a look and TypeScript ESLint, no extra semi was not found. No extra semi, no extra semi, no extra semi. Wow. I remember having to make this fix before. No semi. Yeah. So here, I remember there's an upgrade, and I don't remember what it is. Let's go search for this. Type script xlint. I'm gonna look for that rule. Deprecating formatting rules. This is the one I think that we want to take a look at. So yeah, format context formatting rules, ESLints 2020. Yeah, using stylistic. I remember this. Unified plugins from all four of the above. So if we pull in stylistic ESLint plugin, we should be good. And the migration guide, we're going to go to the single plugin. So we're just going to grab the stylistic ESLint plugin. And then I believe we can just use the @stylistic instead of. So let's go to our command prompt. And let's grab this. And here we're going to start with the P, and then we're going to paste it. That's going to add the stylistic plugin. And then I believe all we need to do is just add @stylistic in front of our rules, and that should be it. There we go. So here, this now becomes stylistic. And I believe it's just semi. And I think we don't even need this one anymore. Here, I think we can do the same, stylistic, and take that out. There we go. So now I believe if we run this, we run our linter again, it should fix up those errors. Assuming I spelled stylistic properly. And the reason that I know that we can take this out, it comes from here. Notice that they're just taking out the semi. And the reason for that was the exact issue that we were having where there's the JS, there's the TS. They talk about it somewhere in their documentation where you would have both those rules the way we did, right? One of them would turn it off and the other one would set it to an error. With stylistic, we don't need to. Did I spell stylistic right? Take a look. I did. So, still got 6 problems. We still have no extra semi all over in the project. No extra semi is in the sandbox. That's fine. Here we want to take this out too. Oh, did I changed it in the Striker sandbox. That's hilarious. Should have been paying attention. So let's go there and let's fix up our actual ESLint. Here we need that. Need that. And I actually think we don't need it with the NX, but I'm not certain. Let's just make sure I've got it everywhere. Oh, yeah, and it's just semi. Stylistic semi. There we go. Now the only place it exists is in the Striker sandbox. We're good. So now if we go lint, it should fix it. Always good to make sure that you're checking where you're making your fixes, right? And sometimes I just get in a hurry and I make this mistake. So we've still got stylistic semi was not found. Did I spell that wrong? Thought I verified that, but let's just make sure. So to migrate over, we do the stylistic ESLint plugin. Oh, I need to add the stylistic plugin to the plugins. Yes. That's the other one. And then the disable legacy rules. There's a way to disable the legacy rules too. Disable legacy. We may have to do that, but I do need to add the plugins at the very top here. We can just add stylistic. I believe that's the only one we need to add, right? Is it at stylistic or stylistic? I always forget and I never really pay attention. So it is at stylistic. Okay. Just make sure. We did that. That's all good. Let's save it. So now everything should run, right? And that's like migrating. There's always just some tiny gotchas and it's easy to forget them. Which is why I really like the Angular migration and the NX migration stuff, right? How they have stuff in place that will migrate for you. So we've got main.js on Storybook. Um, we want to ignore that, and we want to ignore both of these because these are generated code and I don't want to mess with them. Um, so here we can fix this up. You just say, grab that one. And in our ESLint, um, we got the force module boundaries on that. I think we can say that we exclude. And here we just want to say that we want to exclude ** slash that. Nope, that's not the rule. We just want to exclude generated files. So really we can just use ** slash dot storybook slash **, right? Dot storybook slash ** slash star. That should work. And the other one we want to look at is we're going to ignore Cypress support command. And actually, we can just look at, we're just going to ignore ** slash Cypress slash support slash ** slash star, and that should work. So we're just going to exclude those files from any other checks. And we may have to add them to the NX JavaScript and NX TypeScript stuff. That may be what's hitting those rules. Yeah. So we'll just move this to here and to here and see if that fixes it for us. It should, because we're basically telling it, hey, don't lint these generated directories. Oh, come on. Oh, so now we're in a different one. But it shouldn't have picked this up. So these are two new errors. Do I need to also just do that? With those, so we are doing ** storybook star star slash star. Oh, that may be. So I think these are being skipped over because we're saying there has to be a directory there. I wonder if instead of doing that, we do this and we do this and this. I think we can even take this part off too. We'll see. Um, basically, if the directory matches that, then we won't lint it. And let's see if that fixes that issue. We can just run the component list. So pnpm exec, and there we go. And that way we aren't running everything again. And then once this passes, then we can run everything again. Oh, it's still hitting that. Why would it be hitting that? So we're telling it to ignore everything, but only add these files in, but we're also excluding certain files. We need to add it here. And here. I could see that it not being able to parse those might be an issue. And those rules would hit that. Um, so it has to be the JS one. It's this one right here. Was it star star slash storybook? Is that really the issue here? Because that's the only rule that's matching .js files. So the only other place we could look is in components, slash, ESLint. Look here. We also want to exclude those files from here. That's only hitting JTS files. I'm not sure what's going on here. Because it's only with these JS files, and we've got a JS here. Those are all fine. We do have JS here, but does it need to be **/ here? If that's the case, then I need to fix the Cypress one also. But we just want it to skip those files entirely. We don't want those to be picked up. Interesting. But if I go **/ here, what happens? Still the same thing. And these, like these little, these little gotchas can be a pain. um, Keyword const is reserved. It is reserved. This is a parsing error though, and that's what it says. Like if we go to .storybook, we go to components, there's there's that. We've got TS no check on this. Um, there's the const that it's complaining about. Oh, is this in the striker? Oh, wait, are we? No, definitely not in. I'm gonna delete this. Um, so that we don't get confused with that. Can't delete it. But it's saying here in libs components, there's storybook and main dot. Yep. Const keyword is reserved. Control dot. I think if we do a ts dash ignore, right? That the Tips, components, and I deleted it. Is it not TS ignore? What is the TypeScript ignore comments? Well, lead. Oh, it's at ts-ignore. Is that not going to work? Why is my ts-ignore not working? Maybe what I was looking at is outdated. Yes, ignore comment. The ts-ignore is there. It is / at ts-ignore. Let's see if that fixes it though. Keyword export is reserved also. Hey, Avado lawyers, again, the boring framework Angular. Can we get some SAP ABAP in here or what? Is your path is your title path to xState? We don't want to go there. What's forbidden land and go back. Hello, xState, man. Absolutely love xState and welcome to the stream. You're joining like in the last 10 minutes, but um, I I'm not sure what's causing this. I'll have to come back to it. I don't want to get stuck in this. Um, I say after I've been stuck in it for like the last 20 minutes. Let's just leave it. Um, Everything else is working. So it's time to stuff out. Ooh, it's import. What's wrong with this import? Oh, never mind. It just refreshed. We're good. Um, so let's close everything. Close all tabs. Um, let's make sure that we've got everything committed that we need. We can use that one. Just going to discard these changes. Those are all good. Those are all good. So fix linter errors after upgrade. And now we're in a good space. let's pull out our component store. It looks like holy crap. Look at this component store, you guys. It's almost 800 lines of code. Wow. I was on a roll. 800 lines of code in a store. Um, so let's fix this. This is good. There's a lot of work we can do here. Man. So this is the store itself. It's the grid store. It is huge. Like incredibly huge. Is that the only place we're using component store? It is. That's impressive. So let's fix this, right? So the first thing to do is in our store here, we're going to create a new TypeScript file. What is causing this? JSON to TS. Okay. Well, guess what? JSON to TS, you just got yourself disabled. You are disabled. You can play nice, you can come back. I don't want you throwing red error boxes at me anymore. So here, we just want a new TypeScript file. One thing that I'm seeing is that we don't have any tests. Oh, we do. We do have tests on this. Sweet. So the first thing let's do is let's rename this file. And we'll call this grid.old.store. That's going to break our entire project, right? I don't want to. I don't want these to run. Exclude those. And exclude those. Because what we're hoping to do is just drop in the grid store and do a mostly in-place replacement. So this is all I want it to do, is rename it. And that's going to break a whole bunch of stuff. Like the grid store tests, we're going to have to upgrade to, doing spectator tests. That'll be cool on a signal store. So what we need to do right away is we need a new TypeScript file, and this one will be our grid.store. And inside of here, we were exporting a class called gridStore. We're going to do the same thing. So we are going to export gridStore equals signal store. Boom. And this is a const. Grid store equals signal store. And now we need the state for the signal store. And it comes from grid state, and grid state comes from up here. Where is grid command used? It's used in grid state. So let's first of all refactor this. We're going to move this to another file. We're going to move initial state to grid state.ts. We need this, and we need this. And then update selected uses grid state. That's fine. This is used by grid command. We need that. So this uses, this uses, this uses, this uses. We're good. Grid old store. We're going to get rid of it, so I don't really care about it too much, but we're going to refactor this, and boom. So now we have grid state. Grid state looks to be in a good place. We're using cell state and cell value from the domain, that's fine. And we're using create grid state from the helpers, that's also fine. Yeah, those are both fine. But what we can now do is we can say, hey, we want to use grid state here. Boom. And one thing that I did see, something that I've changed since I originally did this, is initial state is just an object. We don't want that. What we want is a function that returns a grid state. And the reason I do this is that if we do a factory, if somebody mutates this, like the object returned from the factory, they're only mutating that reference to that object. If I left this as an object here, then if I mutated it, then I would be mutating the initial state. And so if I ever wanted to reset, it becomes much more difficult. Man, there's a lot of stuff here that would be fun to do, like changing these over to be optionals instead of really want to take a look at doing some more functional stuff here, right? But now we can say, hey, we can grid state now has with state, right? And we need to pull in with state. And we can close this so we can see stuff. And then here we can just say, hey, we want our initial state from grid state, boom. I don't think we need that, right? Because now our grid store is a signal store, and we're good. So there's our initial store. It doesn't do a whole lot yet, but we'll get there. So the next thing to look at is there are a bunch of selectors on here that we need to figure out what they're doing. So like this grid, this game one, creating puzzle mode, selected. These are all signals, right? So we've changed this over to signals a while ago. So selected Where does selected come from? So selected is on the object. I think we're shadowing something. So we're going to have to change a few things about our state. I look like a React developer. You're going to have to explain that one, Habladores, with the React developer. Are you talking about the size of the code that it's horrible code? Um, we're going to be factoring out um, some features here. Or are you talking about me saying I prefer factories over? Um, I do a lot of functional stuff, but so let's grab some of this stuff like grid. Well, I think we already have grid because grid is TypeScript ESLint parser. Which rule is it? Oh, yeah. We'll just turn that rule off. .ESLint.rc and here we can say, hey, we've got overrides on this one. And our overrides are for or wait, we're already in the overrides. So here we can just say rules. And the rule we want to turn off is at ngrx/no frame. What is the rule called again? I've broken it because I've got a broken file. I think it's no. What we can do is we can go back here. We'll save that. We can go back to our grid store. And now we can go into our details. It expects double quoted. What did I not double quote? I've got an extra comma here. There we go. With state, no arrays. Well, this is what we want. We aren't using with. Oh, we are using with state, right? Oh, we are. I want to go take a look at ngrx.io really quick. No arrays at root level. It's saying it doesn't require type information. No arrays at root level. Oh, signal. Okay, so this one does. Oh, with state should accept a record or dictionary as an input argument. Yeah, it shouldn't just take an array. So to use that rule, we have to add this setting. So parser options dot project property. So I think what we have to do is go back here. There's my ESLint for grid. There's my grid. Oh, this is for the entire components, so that's good. Here, I think we can just add here parser options. Is that right? Does that work? That works. Okay. Thank you, Copilot. Um, so we just have to point it at the tsconfig files, and then it's able to figure stuff out. I'm curious if we go lint this. So we just changed components. We know that we can expect the two errors with main and preview. I don't know what causes those. I'm gonna have to do some more research, and I want to make sure that we make some movement forward on using on moving to signal store. Oh, I need to also, I believe there's a storybook config in here too. Buttons, store. So if we look, it's config.json, project.json. Yeah. So here, we also want that one. So the other one we can add is libs components storybook is config.json. If that fixes my issue. That should fix the issue with the missing tsconfig. Oh, the .cy.ts also. The stories, I think it grabs, but I think our .cy.ts, no, it's still not working. So libs component storybook. I don't think we need this. I think it's just tsconfig.json. Should be fine there. And then in Cypress, we also need this one. Need the Cypress one also. The libs components, Cypress, tsconfig.json, and that should work, hopefully. If it doesn't work, I'm just going to take this stuff out and disable the rule. I'm not going to use. Okay, so that fixed it. So now we're back to these two rules, and these are parsing errors. Figure that out later. But so here, let's commit this. We don't lose anything. So here, need to add parser options dot project for linter. We can push that. And then we can stage these three files, and we can say that we began replacing component store with signal store. We're in a very broken state right now. I do need to end. So let's take a look. So grid already exists, I believe. So yeah, we've got grid selected. One thing we can't do, if we take a look at this old store, right? So like this one, we're just grabbing the grid and returning it. This one, we're just grabbing game one. We could probably change game one to, instead of being a property, we could probably change that to be something that's computed. Creating puzzle mode, that's fine. So the has error, we'll probably have to figure out what we're going to do with that. But selected right here. This is a problem. And next to focus is also a problem. And this, so we've got two properties. Actually, we can fix this. We can still use the same internal value, and once we fix these, then we're going to move on. But what we can do is we can go to the grid state, and selected can become a private variable. It's underscore. underscore selected. And the other one was next to focus. So what's interesting is if we look, what we're doing is we're stopping these from being we're basically stopping these from being other way around. So we're doing our own. This is kind of like an optional here, but not really. But basically, we're preventing these from being empty, right? So if selected is not nullish, right, then we return this array. Um, here, well, actually, if it's not falsy, right? And again, here, if next to focus is not falsy, then we return this array. Otherwise, we return no cell to focus or no cell selected. There's a whole bunch of stuff here that I broke by changing that, right? Should have just done a rename. But anyway, what we want to do is just create these also. We're going to grab these two functions. We're going to go over to our grid store, and this is kind of where we'll end for the day. So we've got our initial state. We need some computeds, right? With computed, pull this in, and here our state, and we're going to return our computed object, right? And we've got two functions on here. We've got selected. And selected can just be a function. There we go. There's our selected function. And that, oops, that can go in there. Take that out. Add a comma here. So why doesn't it like my selected now? So if state.selected, oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. Selected needs to be a computed, right? And like, wait, what are you complaining about? You're right. We'll fix up the with state here in a second, or with computed. So if state.selected, oh, underscore selected. It could be undefined, and that's a problem. That is a problem. Um, that solve that? That does solve that issue. So we're making some more changes here. And there is a difference between defining something this way and with a question mark. The question mark means that these properties are optional, which means they may or may not be there. By saying that they have to be something or undefined, that means they have to be there, which is, oh, that's what broke that too, because now they're required to be there. We have to define them with a value. The other thing we can do is we can just say const selected equals state.selected. And now we can just say if selected. Then that, otherwise we return no cell selected. Where's that error? Where is no cell selected coming from? Old store. We don't want that on old store. Let's move those. We are going to move these. Why can't I move these? Move you and you into grid state. Boom. So grid store is using them, but that's it. So there we go. That now works. Grid store is now selecting these from grid state. Perfect. So the last thing we want to do is just make sure that next to focus is computed. And there we go. Do that. So that goes in there. So that is that. Next to focus is that. Why doesn't it like that? That's computed. Oh, that's extra. There we go. And these aren't equals, they're colons, right? So we're getting there. We're getting there. And then we can paste this in. And we can get rid of that, and we can just say, hey, const next to focus is that. Boom. And there we go. We've now got our feature in place that does next to focus. There is one thing I would like to do. Because what I don't want to do is wind up with another 700 line code, right? And this is the last thing we want to do, but we can we can factor these out to we can factor these out to their own their feature. So let's do that really quick and then call it good. So here within the store, we're going to add a new TypeScript file, and we are going to call this grid dot store or grid dot computed feature ts. And I like to add feature.ts to anything that is a component store feature. So we can export function with we'll say with grid computed. And there we go. And so it's going to so what we want to do is we want to return signal store feature. And inside of here, the very first thing we want is our state. So we want to just say, hey, we expect it to have a couple of props. We want it to have selected and next to focus. So here we can say, hey, we expect state underscore selected and undefined underscore selected, if we look, is this or undefined. So we can just say, this is what we expect. Actually, we can just grab these, right? And the only other thing we need to do is just add type here. And this comes from Signal Store. There we go. So now we've got that. And then we can add our with computed. If we add that in. Oh, yes. We need one more object here. And this object is our state object. There we go. So our signal store feature needs a generic type, which I love. So we can fix that, and that fixes that. So now our computed is empty. We can go to our grid store, and we can just grab this entire with computed. And move that over here. Boom. And actually, we don't even need this type here. What we could just say, hey, instead of narrowing it so much, we could just say that this has to be a grid state. And that's going to work for us just fine. That's not working for us. Why doesn't that work for us? The grid state. Oh, yes. We have to tell it that it's a state of type grid state. There we go. So now that works. Now our computeds all work. Now we aren't having to copy stuff over. So now in our grid store, We can just also say, hey, we also want with grid computed. And it doesn't like us because with grid computed, expected 1 arguments but got 2. Why is it saying I'm going way over today? Every time I say I need to end on time, I never do. Signals, signal store, custom store features with request status, signal store feature that computed, that works. Why is it saying that it expects 2? If we look, with computed is a function. It returns a signal store feature. Returns some stuff. Oh, that's why. Put it inside of with state. Somebody's probably saying that. Hey, Marcus, it's good to see you. Yeah, nobody said that. Like, wait, what is going on here? I put it inside of with state. Of course, with state only takes one function or one thing. So there we go. So we now have a grid store that gives us our grid game 1, creating puzzle, has error, all this stuff. And then selected and next to focus also come back. And like if I try to use like const test equals new grid store, right? And I do test dot underscore selected, it's going to give me an error and say, hey, you can't do that because it doesn't exist, even though it's in the state. Signal store now allows us to do private properties on our state. So, if we look at the initial state, it definitely has selected and next to focus, but we can't get to it because of the way the signal store is. So there we go. We're in a good place. I need to end here. Thank you guys for showing up, and thank you guys for the comments and all of that. We'll see you tomorrow. Assuming I don't think I have anything tomorrow. Thursday, I'm also good. But next Sunday for sure. I think I didn't let anybody know that I wasn't going to be streaming Thursday. I apologize. I will be better about that this week. I just realized like Friday afternoon that I hadn't said anything, and by that time it's like, what's I didn't say anything. So, but thank you guys. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you next week at the very least, and Monday and Thursday I will be streaming.